After studying this module, you shall be able to learn the forensic significance of odontological studies. You shall be able to know the various cases of forensic dentistry, and lastly, this module will also let you know why is dental evidence is good for corroborating identity. So, first of all, let us see what is forensic odontology. Forensic odontology is defined as the application of dental expertise to legal system or for the purpose of law or justice. The scope of forensic odontology consists of identification of unknown remains by teeth, jaw and craniofacial bones. It includes the analysis of orofacial trauma associated with personal abuse and dental jurisprudence. It also includes the researches for new technologies. So, students, let us see what is human dentition. Before huddling to the significance of odontological studies, let us have a look on the human dentition. The adult human dentition consists of 32 teeth arranged in two arches, one arch in the upper or maxillary jaw and one in the lower or mandibular jaw. Since the two arches of the jaw are symmetrical, each quadrant comprises the same number and type of teeth such as 2 incisors, 1 cuspid, 2 premolars and 3 molars. Incisors are the wide and the front teeth with flat and thin biting edges. The cuspid or the eye tooth is at the corner of the arch and has a pointed cusp. Each premolar typically has 2 cusps. The molars have 3 to 5 cusps and a wide biting surface to chew and crush the food. The third molar, or that is also referred as wisdom tooth, is the last tooth in the arch. Each tooth has a crown and a root. The crown is the visible portion that protrudes above the gum. The root is embedded into a socket in the jaw. Incisors and cuspid each have a single root. Premolars have 1 or 2 roots and molars usually have 2 or 3 roots. The crown of the tooth is capped by the enamel, which is the hardest tissue of the human body. Under the enamel there is dentine, which comprises the bulk of the crown and root. Dentine is basically different from enamel, and dentine is alive and is very much capable of transmitting the sense of pain. In the center of the tooth there is a cylindrical canal which is made up of soft tissue, which is known as the pulp. The function of the pulp is to sense the pain, and throughout the life it slowly produces dentine, which narrows the diameter of the pulp canal as the individual ages. The root is surrounded by a thin layer of bone-like tissue which is called as cementum. Fibrous tissue called the periodontal ligament hold the tooth in the jaw because it is embedded into both the cementum and the bony socket wall. By convention in the US, dentists identify the individual teeth by the universal system, which numbers the teeth from 1 to 32, starting from the upper maxillary right third molar across to the upper maxillary left third molar, and then continuing with the lower mandibular left third molar and concluding with the lower right third molar. Each number refers to a scientific tooth bearing its own scientific anatomy. Even though some teeth look alike, a dentist can examine an isolated extracted tooth and determine its correct number in most cases. Other countries use different tooth numbering system. Children have 20 teeth which are referred as deciduous or primary teeth. They have no premolars and no third molars. These teeth begin to erupt at the age of 6 months and they are completely erupted by 2.5 years. The primary teeth are lost and they are replaced by the permanent teeth starting at the age of 6 or 7. In the universal system, primary teeth are designated by letters A through T. The surface of teeth are named as follows. The surface which faces outward toward the face, lips and cheeks is referred as facial, labial or buccal teeth, whereas the surface facing inward, they are referred toward the tongue, they are referred as lingual teeth. The biting surface is called the incisal when referring to the front teeth and occlusal when applied to the premolars or molars. The side of the tooth facing the midline is called mesial and the side away from the midline is referred to as distal. Now, I will be telling you about the importance of teeth in personal identification. Everyone has teeth. When someone does not have teeth, this is in itself as an unusual as to be highly individualizing and may be only one manifestation of a syndrome with other or more obvious. They are the individual physical signs to establish the identity. It is common for the people to wear prosthesis if they have never developed the teeth. The form of teeth and detail of their arrangement in dental arches, it provides a body of information that is probably unique to the individual. It is even observed in identical twins. The slight variations is also present. For example, form and position of tooth, they can be found different, which enables the twins to be separated. To the above criteria, we can add the almost infinite variation that can be additional to the individualization of definition, which can be the ways of dental treatments such as extraction, dental restoration or different use of restorative materials, and the dentition becomes certainly as individual as a fingerprint. One great benefit over fingerprint evidence for the validation of identity arises from the residence of the oral structure to fire or putrefaction. Teeth and bone can be heated to the temperature approaching the melting point of the skeletal mineral without appreciable loss of microstructure or tertiary architecture. Furthermore, the teeth represents the only part of the skeleton that normally protrudes from the soft tissue of the body and is therefore available for examination and recording by photography or dental impression before the death. Now, I'll be telling you the forensic significance of odontological studies. Science of dentistry can be of sheer importance for a forensic expert. The subject concerns with the identification of person from data of their teeth pattern and the investigation of criminal cases where bite marks are involved. Teeth also provide evidence as to the age of the individual. A number of the cases where teeth or bite marks can play important role in establishing identity, they include physical abuse, mass disasters, abuse, rape, determination of age and determination of gender and racial origin. First, I'll be telling about you the physical abuse. The World Health Organization has declared that violence is a major and growing public health problem across the world. Forensic odontologists are frequently called to look at the people, both dead and alive, or objects which may retain marks left by an interaction with the teeth of a person or an animal. This instance where human bite another person, it is very uncommon. The marks that is left behind from the bite may range from an excellent silhouette of the dental arches and individual teeth to something very diffuse and indistinct. The poor fidelity of human skin are a recording medium, and its deformability and elasticity, its capacity to heal, added to the complex form of the dental arches and the many promising movement of the jaws during biting, combined to the make scientific analysis of bite mark injuries that are very problematic. These bite marks are of forensic significance and are often present in the case of violent crimes such as homicide, sexual assault and child abuse. Apart from this, the bite marks can be inflicted by the animals, most commonly dogs and cats. Each individual has a unique type of impression or dentitions, even in the identical terms, so the individualization is possible from the teeth. Therefore, the bite marks are also called as dental fingerprints. The beaten food stuff left at the scene of crime may be useful in determining the identity of the culprit. Now, the next type of case is the mass disaster. A mass disaster is usually known as an event. It can be air crash, naval crash, railway or motorway accident, flooding and earthquake. And these mass disasters, they give birth to a large number of victims that need to be identified and subject to medico-legal investigation. Whereas on the other hand, Parikh states about mass disaster as death of more than 12 victims in a single event. However, it is more logical to define it as the number of deaths which exceeds the capacity of the local death investigation system to handle it, since the teeth are the extremely resistant to decomposition, environmental factors and to a certain extent fire. They are therefore of crucial importance for identification, particularly in cases where soft tissues have been altered for various reasons. In addition, teeth, because of all their possible variation in shape, size and position, they constitute a three-dimensional apparatus, and it is the characteristic of each individual. Genes, nutrition, environment, pathology and dental treatment act synergistically in decreasing the possibility that two sets of teeth may be identical and thus allow one to express a statement of the identity of an unknown corpse. Dental forensic played a key role in identification of individual during the Oklahoma City bombing, where 70 to 80% victims' true identity was established. According to the J. Caliph Dental Association in Golden GS lessons learned from the World Trade Center disaster, another major situation of mass disaster was famous tragedy of 9/11, where 20% of victims were identified with the help of the teeth. In the Asian tsunami, forensic odontology played a major role in establishing the identity of victims. The number of people identified with the help of this branch of forensic science were 90%, and about 50 to 20% victims were identified after Hurricane Katrina. In case of Joplin, Missouri, a lot of dental offices were destroyed when the F5 tornado hit, which made it difficult to locate the records, especially if they were paper records that utilized computerized management system and had remote computer backup system that were beneficial with supplying ante-mortem records. The next type of case is abuse. Abuse can victimize anyone. It can involve children, it can involve women, it can involve men and the elderly. The dental team can be of importance in assisting the detection of someone being abused. Some of the signs that can assist are fractured incisors that may be due to repeated trauma, oral or perioral syphilis or gonorrhea. They may indicate the probability of sexual abuse, while the bite marks on the unexposed area can also indicate the child abuse. Bite marks found on the abused children, they tend to originate from individuals who have uncontrollable anger toward the child. Elder abuse is also an issue that dental professionals should be aware of. Each year, millions of elders they suffer from maltreatment. The elder population ranging from the age of 65 and above the 65 is increasing each year, and so are the cases for elder abuse. The United States Department of Justice indicates that violent crimes against people that age 65 and older are approximately 4 in 1000. Head and neck injuries are common in elder abuse. In fact, it was reported that approximately 30% of known cases of elder abuse were related to neck and facial injuries such as oral soft tissues, jaw fractures and fractured or avulsed teeth that have been reported as indication of elder abuse. The next type of case is rape, where the teeth and the bite pattern proves to be important for establishing identity. In case of rape bite marks, which are often found on the body of the victim as an act of assault for the purpose of pleasure. Bite marks being specific to a person, they play an important role in linking up the crime and the perpetrator. Bite marks are either left on the victim by the attacker or on the perpetrator by the victim of an attack or an inanimate object found at the crime scene. Human bite marks on the victims are the most often found on the skin and soft tissue areas of all parts of the body. Area of bite marks on female victims are most often found in the breast and legs produced during sexual attack. On males, the bite marks are commonly seen on the arms and shoulders. When a person is in defensive circumstances, such as when the arms are held up toward of an attacker, the arms and hands are often bitten. One of the famous cases that strikes up when talking of importance of forensic odontology is Ted Bundy, the serial killer. Dr. Richard Severin was the forensic scientist who was the basically a dentist. He was requested to examine the evidence that had been discovered on the body of the victims from Chi Omega sorority house in the January of 1978. He found upon the arrival to view the evidence that tissue was from a breast and buttocks that had been excised and placed in fluid without retaining rings. Dr. Severin was able to determine the person who bit the victim had poorly aligned teeth. This information assisted in establishing the probable cause which was necessary in order to obtain a search warrant. This warrant allowed Dr. C. Warren to take dental impressions, bite records and photographs of the Ted Bundy's dentition. Then he provided a photograph of the bit injury. In addition, Dr. Lovell Levine and Dr. Norman Farber, they also examined independently the evidence, and all three examiners, they concluded the evidence that did implicate Ted Bundy as the perpetrator of the bite marks. Ted Bundy was convicted on 7 counts and sentenced to death. The next area of possible use of dental pattern is determination of age. The determination of age may be required for the identification of an individual either living or dead. Evidence as to the age may be demanded in the circumstances such as criminal responsibility, judicial punishment, rape, competency as a witness, or in the case of death for personal identification. For instance, let us take the situation of judicial punishment. Juvenile offenders, that is children, that are boys below the 16 years and girls below the 18 years of age, who have committed a crime and they are tried by the juvenile court. In order to get away from the rigorous punishment, sometimes it is seen that offenders fake their age. It is here when honorable court demands for the age determination of the suspect. Another condition where the determination of age may be required is for the identification of an individual. When a person suddenly appears after many years, such as in instance of Bhowal Sannyasi case, and claims to be the missing person, or when dead body is produced as that of the missing person, the approximate age is an important link in any chain of the identity data. The next area is determination of gender and racial origin. In case of teeth sex, it is determined by the DNA, which is extracted from the pulp containing blood vessels. The size and shape of teeth are too similar between male and female, and it allows the reliable gender determination. However, the sex can be determined from the pulp tissue. DNA probes can be used to determine the sex, whereas in case of race differentiation, the features that can be observed to distinguish the race are the shovel-shaped incisors, which are common in 85% of Mongoloids. But in case of Caucasoids, we find shovel-shaped incisors in 2 to 6%. In case of Negroid, on the other hand, it is observed that only 9 to 12% of population have shovel-shaped incisors. So students, let us see what we have covered in this chapter. Odontological identification is based on the comparison between post-mortem evaluation and ante-mortem data concerning the dental status. Characters such as malformation, anomalies, pathological and traumatic alterations, and therapeutic peculiarities, which includes avulsions, fillings, root canals, caps and denatures. They are by many authors considered among the most important factors for personal identification. However, morphology is also important. One has to consider the fact that improving health condition decreases the need for dental work, particularly in young individuals, and thus leads to the need for identification methods based on single morphological traits. At this time, forensic odontology remains one the most reliable and cheapest and quickest method of corroborating human identity, but It is very tangible in nature. It is easily presented to and understood by juries and courts. In years to come, many of these identification tasks are likely to be answered by advances in molecular biology. Forensic odontologists, they have contributed to the resolution of many mass disasters. The 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami is probably the most eminent example on the success of forensic odontologists in identifying the large number of victims in short time. Nearly half of the victims in Thailand, they were also identified by dental characteristic method alone, and forensic odontologists, they contributed to the identification of the remaining half by assisting the fingerprint, DNA and physical characteristics team.